What if Hollywood's hottest guys were also the bravest? In an image-obsessed industry, these 10 young stars aren't just famous. They're rewriting the rules. Handsome, talented, and proudly gay. From handsome teenage boys to groundbreaking icons, each of them is breaking the mold and saying, "This is me." And trust us, some of these names are sure to surprise you. Ready to see which stars are redefining what it means to be a leading man in Hollywood? Let's get started. Froy Gutierrez. In Hollywood, looks can open doors, but the truth knocks them down. And that's exactly what Froy Gutierrez did. At first glance, Froy is just another teenage dream. A jawline sharp enough to cut glasses, eyes that want to cause trouble, and a quiet charisma that makes casting directors take notice. He's young, charismatic, and has the kind of face that makes fan edits go viral on Tumblr. But for years, Froy has harbored something deeper, a truth he hasn't been ready to share. He got his start in the industry playing Nolan on Teen Wolf, a series known for its mix of supernatural elements and teenage angst. Even then, Froy stood out, not just because of his looks, but because of the way he could go from brooding to vulnerable in a single glance. Then, in Cruel Summer, he took on the role of Jamie Henson, adding layers of complexity to a coming-of-age mystery that captivated Gen Z audiences across America. As his fame grew, so did the questions. Was he dating anyone? Why did he avoid red carpets with his escorts? Why didn't he answer certain questions in interviews? But Froy remained quiet. Not cold, just careful. And who could blame him? For many gay actors, coming out so early can feel like career suicide in an industry that still whispers behind closed doors. But then came June 25, 2023, Pride season, New York City, the Gitano Island party. Amidst the music and summer air, a camera flash captured it all. Froy Gutierrez kissing co-star Zane Phillips. No spectacle, no PR stunt, just two men, in a moment that was honest, real, and quietly revolutionary. That kiss? It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't even a surprise to many fans. But it was confirmation. Quiet, clear, and powerful. And just like that, the speculation stopped. So let's pause for a moment. If you were in his shoes, young, famous, and constantly scrutinized, would you have the courage to do what he did? To let the world see you in your entirety? Leave your answer in the comments. Because here's the thing. Froy doesn't owe us anything. He doesn't need to be public. He can play the PR game, smile for the cameras, and live a quiet private life. But instead, he chose honesty. And in a world where image is currency, that choice is radical. Froy hasn't stopped working since that moment, but he's changed. He's become more intentional, more expressive, more open. His social media is subtle but authentic. No rainbow flags everywhere. No slogans. Just glimpses of a young man living more freely. He hasn't yet taken on openly queer roles, but he doesn't have to hide behind straight-coded characters now either. And that freedom? It's evident in the way he holds himself, in the way he speaks, in the way fans connect with him, not as an ideal, but as a person. He may not be the loudest voice in LGBTQ+ Hollywood, but sometimes quiet courage resonates louder. And Froy Gutierrez, with one photo, one moment, one choice, proved that the most powerful way to come out is to live your truth. So what do you think? Does Froy's approach, subtle, gentle, yet unwavering, resonate with you more than a viral headline? Let us know below. And stay tuned, because the next star we're about to meet was thrust into the spotlight at just 18 and still had the strength to say it, "I'm bisexual." So what? So while Froy Gutierrez came out with a kiss, softly, quietly, and completely of his own accord, Kit Connor's truth came as a storm. At just 18, Kit is more than just an actor on the rise. He's the heart of Netflix's Heartstopper, a groundbreaking, tender, gay teen romance that took the world by surprise. In the film, Kit plays Nick Nelson, a teenage football player struggling with the tender turmoil of discovering he's bisexual. He does it with such warmth, such grace, and so much humanity that fans around the world can't stop watching. And then they can't stop speculating. Is Kit actually bisexual in real life? Is he just acting? Does he owe them answers? The questions kept coming, from fans, the press, tweets, YouTubers, even articles in major publications. It was no longer curiosity. It started to become pressure. He had just turned 19 and was already being dissected as an icon. Then came October 31st, 2022. A tweet. Straight, unedited, and disappointing. I am bisexual. Congratulations on forcing an 18-year-old to come out. I think some of you missed the point of the show. No rainbow graphics, no grand declarations, just pain, typed out at 2 a.m. and sent into the noise. It hit hard, because here's a young man playing one of the most tender gay characters we've seen in years, and in real life, he hasn't been given the space to figure it out quietly. Since then, Kit hasn't relied on fame. He's relied on work. He returned to Heartstopper Season 2 with more power behind his eyes. He's become more intentional with interviews, keeping things close to his chest. On the red carpet, his fashion has become bolder, more fearless. He's not trying to be a gay icon, but just being himself, imperfect, protected, evolving, has become one. Beyond acting, Kit has entered the fashion world with quiet confidence. He's worked with Louis Vuitton, walked for Loa, and appeared in editorials that combine masculinity with softness in fresh, unscripted ways. Behind the scenes, he's focused on voiceover work, stand-up writing, and music. A longtime passion he's only recently begun to explore. He's taken a step back from the constant press to work on himself, choosing privacy over visibility. Not to hide, but to stand his ground. He's also spoken out in small, sure ways about the damage online pressure can do to young gay people, especially those still figuring themselves out. He doesn't speak at rallies or lead pride campaigns. He lets his choices, in scripts, in silence, in style, speak for him. And that's perhaps the most relatable thing about him. He's not the loudest guy in the room. He doesn't post hashtags. He's just a young man, living his life on his own terms. And after everything he's been through, that's enough. Next, we meet someone who isn't quiet. He's bold, unafraid, and challenges every old notion of what a leading man should look like and love. Zane Phillips. If Kit Connor's story is about pressure, Zane Phillips is the kind of man who puts pressure on the world. He walks into a room like it belongs to him. Square jaw, tall frame, shoulders that look like they're carved from marble. If you've seen him in Fire Island, glamorous, or even shirtless selfies on Instagram, you know that already. But here's what you might not know. Zane doesn't just come out. He comes out. There's no loud announcement of coming out. There's no moment of silence followed by a rainbow wave. Zane just lives openly from day one. There's no label plastered across his chest. There's no explanation. And that, in Hollywood today, is still extreme. Because for years, gay male actors have been told to tone it down, to hide their partners, to up their roles, to keep their queerness off camera. Zane, he's turned that stereotype into dust. In Fire Island, he plays the handsome, aloof romantic lead, the kind of role usually reserved for straight actors pretending to be charming. Except this time, the charm is real and the sexuality too. He's not just playing the part, he's reclaiming it. And not just on screen. Off-screen, he makes no attempt to hide his life. The dates, the workouts, the lavish nights out in New York's gay scene. Some say, don't let your sexuality define you. Zane seems to reply, why not? Because what's wrong with being proudly gay and brutally attractive? What's wrong with embracing the beauty of your body, your identity, and your desires without apologizing? He showed us that gay men don't have to shrink to be taken seriously. They can show skin and show depth. They can flirt and still lead. They can look like a Marvel superhero and still be themselves. But let's be clear, Zane is more than just his body and his confidence. He's trained in theater, sharp in interviews, passionate about telling queer stories, not as an agenda, but as a way of seeing the world. And in June 20th, 23, when a photo of him kissing actor Froy Gutierrez at the Gitano Island Pride Party broke the internet, he didn't post a caption. He didn't make a statement. He just smiled and let the moment speak for itself. Because when you love this confidently, the world can take all the pictures it wants. You've lived your life to the fullest. Today, Zane is quickly becoming a modern gay sex symbol. Not the shallow kind, but the kind that makes people think, wait, Why hasn't Hollywood ever made gay men this attractive before? And maybe that's the point. Zane doesn't wait to be invited into leading man territory. He walks in shirtless, smiling, and rewriting the rules as he goes. What about you? When you see someone like Zane Phillips, unapologetic, raw, unfiltered, do you feel challenged? Or do you feel seen? Either way, he doesn't ask for permission. We've met the quiet ones, the shy surprises, and the soft, slow coming outs. But next comes a story wrapped in paparazzi flashes, surprise romance, and a wedding that broke the internet. You won't see this one coming. Lukas Gage, he didn't post a fancy Instagram caption or a quiet interview, tissues in hand. Lukas Gage emerged as a true Hollywood disruptor in a blur of designer sunglasses, unexpected romances, and a Vegas wedding officiated by Kim Kardashian. Long before the flash and headlines, Lukas was just a kid from San Diego with big dreams and no shortcuts. He bombed auditions, sent in dozens of self-taped tapes, worked service jobs to make ends meet. He wasn't handed anything, he worked his way up. And when fame finally came knocking, it didn't knock politely. That all changed over a Zoom call. A casting director, unaware that his microphone was hot, insulted Lukas's apartment during a remote audition. "These poor people live in these tiny apartments," the voiceover said. Lukas posted the clip himself, not out of revenge, but out of truth. The moment didn't just make him famous, it showed what made Lukas different. He wasn't afraid to be seen, no matter what his flaws. Then came Euphoria, The White Lotus, roles that pushed boundaries, including sex and chaos. He played glamorous, dangerous, unfiltered characters. And while fans began speculating about his private life, Lukas kept quiet until he didn't. In early 2023, he began appearing alongside Chris Appleton, the celebrity hairstylist behind Kim Kardashian's iconic looks. They were photographed on vacation, then kissing, then walking the red carpet hand in hand. And just when everyone thought it was a whirlwind romance, boom, a Vegas wedding. Kim officiated. It was pure pop culture drama, but somehow tender. "I was so in love," Lukas said in a brief interview. And that was it. He didn't label himself. He didn't write a manifesto. He just let love speak, loudly, joyfully, and unapologetically. But the story didn't end there. Just a few months later, the couple quietly divorced. No scandal, no mess. Lukas came out, did press, kept working, and proved once again that his story wasn't just about coming out. It was about staying true, even when the cameras stopped flashing. Today, Lukas continues to choose bold, nonconformist roles, often playing gay men, but never stereotypical ones. He challenged Hollywood's obsession with masculinity, criticized unrealistic body standards, and appeared on red carpets in sheer gowns and pearls, carefree and radiant. He also used his platform to lift up other queer voices, share space with independent creators, and build a career on his own terms. There's no perfect story here, just a man living fully, fiercely, and wonderfully on his own terms. And maybe that's what queerness looks like now, not just a revelation, but a reinvention. Not just a label, but a lifestyle built on freedom. Now we turn to you. Do you think love speaks louder when it's whispered or when it comes in pearls and tuxedos at a Vegas altar? Justice Smith. Justice Smith has never really had a chance to fit in life. Not in Hollywood, even when he tried. As a young, black, gay actor breaking into an industry that rarely makes space for all three, Justice is used to walking into rooms and knowing right away, this script is not for me. But he shows up anyway. You might have first noticed him in Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, fast-talking, tech-savvy sidekick energy. Or maybe in Detective Pikachu, where he held his own alongside CGI creatures and Ryan Reynolds' voice. He's charming, safe, marketable. But that's not the whole story. Behind the scenes, Justice is struggling, not with his talent, but with the unwritten rules. Don't talk about being gay. Don't be too soft. Don't be too political. He followed the script until he didn't. In June 2020, at the height of the Black Lives Matter protests, Justice decided that staying silent was no longer an option. In a series of posts, he not only spoke out in support of Black trans lives, but also publicly acknowledged that he was gay. As a gay black man, I've been disappointed to see some people eager to say Black Lives Matter, but silent when trans queer is added to the mix, he wrote. No PR team, no rainbow campaign, just the truth, the kind of truth that cuts to the heart. Since that moment, Justice has been one of the few young actors who stands firmly in the middle. Masculine yet gentle, outspoken yet measured, visible yet real. He stars in HBO Max's Generation, a raw, chaotic teen drama that refuses to gloss over its queer side. His performance is sublime, sarcastic, impulsive, deeply insecure, and deeply human. Off-screen, he's spoken openly about mental health, queer erasure, and the loneliness of not seeing yourself on screen. He doesn't speak for a movement, he speaks for himself, and somehow that makes people feel seen. These days, Justice does things differently. He chooses roles that challenge, not flatter. He collaborates with queer writers, queer artists, queer stories. And the fashion? Don't get us started. He's walked the carpet in fishnets, velvet jackets, sequined trousers, not to provoke, but to show. To embody a kind of freedom that says, I am more than what you see. Not everyone gets that, but he's not doing it for everyone. Justice Smith isn't trying to fit into the Hollywood mold. He's shattering it and building something better from the pieces. So here's a thought. What if more actors like him stopped asking for permission to be authentic? Maybe we'd finally stop talking about diversity as if it were a gift, and start talking about authenticity as if it were a right. Next up, a performer who has never needed attention to shine because his heart, his joy, and his voice have made him stand out in every room he's walked into. Frankie A. Rodriguez. Not every coming out story has to be dramatic. Some just feel right, like they've always been there. That's the energy Frankie A. Rodriguez brings to the screen and to his life. If you've seen High School Musical, the series, you know exactly who he is. He plays Carlos, a sharp, bold, unapologetically cool student choreographer with a heart of gold and a wardrobe full of sparkle. But here's what's Frankie apart from most young gay actors. He didn't wait to come out. He began his acting career being open about who he was. No nervousness, no build-up, just truth, poured into every role, every audition, every red carpet. And that's rare, especially in the world of Disney, where family-friendly often means don't ask, don't tell. But Frankie changed that, forever. When he stepped onto the Disney Plus stage as the network's first openly gay main character, he wasn't just playing a role, he was making history. But he didn't act like it. He wasn't on a mission. He wasn't trying to be a pioneer. He just showed up as himself. And somehow, that made the impact all the more profound. Kids watched Carlos flirt, fall in love, dance at prom, and it wasn't a special. It was just part of the story. For thousands of queer teens, especially Latinx kids who had never seen themselves represented like that, it meant a lot. Frankie never made his identity a headline. But he never hid it either. He used visibility as a tool, not to preach, but to normalize. And that kind of subtle, steady display, it stuck with people. Since then, Frankie has focused on lighthearted storytelling. He leans into comedy, music, youth culture. His interviews are always upbeat, his energy a magnet. But he's also thoughtful, especially when it comes to the pressure of being first. Because with fame comes responsibility. And sometimes that responsibility can feel overwhelming. But Frankie handles it the way he handles everything. With kindness, with humor, with a wink and a dance move. Today, he continues to appear in Disney Plus content and LGBTQ plus youth groups, all the while maintaining a gentle drama. No scandals, no dramatic shifts, just a steady, inspiring presence. In a world obsessed with loud declarations, Frankie's gentle confidence reminds us that being openly present is, in and of itself, a radical act, especially when you're the first to do it in front of millions of kids. So maybe the question isn't who's the boldest. Maybe it's who's making the next generation feel seen without having to shout. Next up, a wild kid with a voice that can't be ignored. A boy who's young, unpredictable, and has come out as bisexual directly on Instagram. Jack Dylan Grazer. Jack Dylan Grazer didn't come out in a magazine interview. He didn't write a heartfelt Instagram post or release a YouTube video. He just said it. Mid-sentence, mid-laugh, mid-live. I'm bisexual. You idiot. That's it. One of the most talked about young actors in Hollywood casually came out as bisexual to hundreds of fans watching live, and then continued telling the joke. There was no preparation, no branding, no moment. Just Jack. And honestly, that's exactly who he's always been. If you've seen It or Shazam, you know Jack doesn't play quiet characters. He's loud, expressive, funny, and just a little chaotic in the best way. Off-screen, he's no different. Jack has always existed outside the box. His style, gender fluid and unpredictable. His humor, dry, absurd, and deeply Gen Z. His interviews, unfiltered, refreshingly honest and messy. So when he said I'm bisexual during a live stream in July 20th, 2021, it didn't feel like a revelation. It felt like a shrug, a smile, a wink to an audience that had always seen him as something more than straight. And maybe that was the point. For Jack, coming out wasn't a destination. It was just another stop on the wild, colorful, fast-moving ride that is being yourself. In the months since that live stream, Jack's fan base has exploded, not just because he came out, but because he was free. He doesn't try to clean up his image or position himself as a role model. He just continues to be loud, weird, and utterly unapologetic. He wears crop tops to events. He plays with pronouns. He teases audiences with his genderless looks. One day, he's wearing a leather jacket and boots. The next day, he's wearing a sparkly tank top and eyeliner. It's not a performance. It's not a strategy. It's an instinct. Jack doesn't try to be weird. He just is. And that's refreshing in itself. In an industry that still favors polished, predictable young stars, Jack's refusal to play by the rules makes him stand out. He turns chaos into charm. Today, he continues to take on roles that allow him to explore emotion and edginess. He's been open about mental health, identity, and queerness while growing up in the spotlight. He's not afraid to be vulnerable, or loud, or both. And while some may want him to tone it down, Jack's fans know that's exactly why they love him. He's reminding a generation that queerness doesn't have to come with pain. Sometimes it comes with laughter, with weird fashion choices, with live streams, chaos, and honesty in its purest form. And isn't that a source of pride in its own right? Next up, a young actor who started out in politics, made history on the Disney Channel, and proved to the world that being bisexual doesn't mean being confused. It means being whole. Joshua Rush. Most young actors chase fame. Joshua Rush chases purpose. At 16, he made Disney Channel history as Cyrus Goodman on Andy Mack, the first openly gay character on the network to actually say the words, "I'm gay." That moment changed everything. For Disney, for viewers, for Joshua himself. Because let's be honest, Disney Channel isn't exactly known for its gay representation. But here came Andy Mack, a coming-of-age show that dared to tell the truth. And at the center of it all was Joshua, playing a character many kids had never seen before, but desperately needed to see. Cyrus wasn't flamboyant or coded, he wasn't tragic or tokenized, he was just a kid. Confused, anxious, brave. And when he looked his best friend straight in the eye and said, "I'm gay," the silence that followed was louder than any applause. It was one of the most quietly revolutionary moments in children's television. And here's the part most people don't know. Joshua was figuring it out for himself at the same time. A few years later, in 2019, he came out as bisexual, making him not only the actor behind Disney's first gay character, but also the first Disney Channel star to come out in real life. His coming out wasn't headline-grabbing, it was thoughtful, it had layers, it was him. Since then, Joshua has taken a path few child stars have taken. He's leaning into politics, not Hollywood politics, real politics. He worked as a communications intern for a United States congressman. He campaigned for progressive candidates. He spoke openly about Gen Z, mental health, LGBTQ+ youth suicide rates, voting rights. He didn't just play a thoughtful character. He became one. His Instagram went from red carpet photos to infographics. His TikTok, political explainers with a dash of self-aware humor. And yet, all the while, he never strayed from his identity. He's proud to be bisexual, proud to be Jewish, proud to be loud when he needed it most. He's used all his fame not to seek validation, but to create space. These days, Joshua isn't always on screen. He's in school, studying political communications. He's writing, think, organize. And somehow, that seems true. Some stars lead with performance. Joshua Rush leads with principle. And while his Disney days of stardom may be behind him, his role as a quiet force for change is just beginning. Not all heroes make big speeches. Some just show up, full, open, and smart, and remind the world that fame is just the first step. Next up, a boy with a soft voice, a gentle smile, and the quiet power to melt millions of hearts. His role in Heartstopper made him famous, but his truth is what makes him unforgettable. Joe Locke. Some actors play characters. Joe Locke became him. Before Heartstopper, Joe was just a quiet teenager from the Isle of Man, a small island between England and Ireland, better known for its sheep than its fame. He wasn't raised in the spotlight. He didn't have an agent when he was 10. He just acted. In school plays, on small stages, and most of all, in his heart. So when Netflix held open auditions for Heartstopper, he sent in a self-tape. No expectations, no promises, just hope. And then, the unthinkable happened. He was cast as Charlie Spring, a soft-spoken, openly gay high schooler exploring the messy, tender, terrifying beauty of first love. And something incredible happened on screen. Joe wasn't playing Charlie. He was Charlie. Every glance, every gasp, every breakdown felt real, because it was. Charlie wasn't just a character. He was Joe. And for gay kids around the world who had never seen themselves portrayed with so much respect, care, and joy, it was life-changing. Suddenly, Joe Locke was everywhere. Teen Vogue covers, fashion editorials, talk shows, millions of fans. But fame didn't change his voice, it just gave him a microphone. Joe spoke openly about growing up gay in a small town, about isolation, about the subtle cruelty of always feeling like the other. He didn't make a dramatic coming-out speech, because he never needed one. Joe has always been real, quietly, strongly. He's talked about how Heartstopper isn't just a job, it's healing, for him, for viewers. For a generation of kids who finally saw that queer stories don't have to end in tragedy. And when asked if he feels pressure to be a role model, Joe gave the most Charlie-like answer you could imagine. I just try to be honest and kind, and hopefully that's enough. Yes, more than enough actually. Since Heartstopper, Joe has entered new worlds. He starred in Marvel's Agatha: Coven of Chaos, bringing his warmth and vulnerability to the supernatural universe. He's become a quiet force in British fashion, strutting the red carpet in fluid, expressive silhouettes. And all the while, he kept his cool. No scandals, no attention-grabbing headlines, just steady authenticity. Joe isn't flashy, he's not loud, but in a world obsessed with volume, his gentleness has become a radical act. He reminds us that love doesn't always have to be loud. That being gay doesn't mean being flamboyant or performative or even particularly brave. Sometimes it just means being present. Completely. Quietly. Completely. So if you've ever wondered what bravery looks like in 2025, it might not be on stage or at a protest. It might just be a boy from a quiet island holding someone's hand and not letting go. From Disney darlings to Netflix icons, each of these young stars has shaped a new coming-out story. But what happens when the world thinks it knows who you are, and then you blurt out a truth so simple, so ordinary, it silences millions? Meet the final name on our list. Noah Schnapp. By now the world knows him. Will Byers, the quiet kid in Stranger Things, the sensitive soul, the one who always seemed different. Millions of people have watched Noah Schnapp grow up on screen. From the fragile, trembling boy in The Upside Down, to a teenager navigating raw, unspoken emotions that resonate more deeply than monsters. And somewhere along the way, something changed. Viewers weren't just watching a character anymore. They were watching a mirror. Will's quiet yearning, his stolen glances, his desperate need to be seen, touched the hearts of gay teens around the world. For many, Will Byers wasn't just gay. He was them. And with each new season, the question grows louder. Is Noah playing a role or living the role? Rumors swirled, fans speculated, Theories flew, but Noah said nothing. Not because he was hiding, because he wasn't ready. And then, in January 2023, without warning, he smiled on TikTok and wrote just 7 words, "I guess I'm more Will." That was it. A chuckle, a shrug, a truth so ordinary it shattered expectations. In a world that often demands trauma to prove itself, Noah chose joy. In a culture that expects confessions and crises, he winked. Not just brave, but revolutionary. And just like that, Noah Schnapp came out as gay, and the internet exploded. Not with outrage, celebration. Because Noah did what millions of people dream of. He owned his truth, on his own terms. No clickbait, no drama, no apologies, just a teenage boy saying, "Hey, this is me." In later interviews, Noah explained that his close friends and family knew long before the post and had shown him nothing but love. The TikTok wasn't a revelation. It was a punctuation mark, a quiet end to a private journey and the beginning of a much freer one. And since then, he hasn't changed, at least not in the way anyone expected. Noah is still the charming, quick-witted guy his fans love, but there's something different about his smile now, a relief, a quiet pride, a calmness that comes from finally being seen. He's returned to the set of Stranger Things for its final season, diving deeper into the entrepreneurial waters of his sustainable snack brand and continuing to show the world that being young and queer doesn't have to mean opening up to others. It can mean laughing. It can mean building. It can mean growing, with love and without fear. Noah's coming out wasn't a spectacle. It was a reminder. Not every queer story needs to be dramatic to be powerful. Sometimes the quietest truths resonate the most, and maybe, just maybe, the future of LGBTQ+ representation looks exactly like this. Not a scream, not a storm, but a smile. And the words, "I'm okay, I am me, and I'm here." 10 young stars, 10 different ways to say this is me. In a world that still requires queer people to explain, justify, wait, they chose to shine. Not louder, just more authentically. So what stories moved you? What moments made you feel seen? Let us know in the comments. We're listening. And if you believe that truth never needs a stage, then stay with us. Subscribe, share, and most of all, be proud.